What's going on, everybody? Tim from Tierfund Orbital. So this is going to be a build video slash walkthrough for a commission that I recently finished. I definitely wanted to go over some of the details that went into this install because it is a very unique hilt, and for a very unique hilt I needed to do a very unique chassis. So I'm going to go over some of the intricacies of this build. And I'm also going to do a quick demo and all of that good stuff like we usually do. So I want to talk about this hilt. So this was sent to me by a client. It is a very unique hilt, and I needed to figure out a unique solution to the switches on this. So let's do an up top really quick and we'll go over the hilt. So here it is. This is an MHS build from the Custom Saber shop. The client sent it to me as is. I believe the client did do some painting on this upper section. Like this grenade section is black. There is an emitter here that's also been painted black. I don't believe that it was painted from Custom Saber shop. I'm pretty sure the Custom Saber shop does a powder coating, only a powder coating option, and this looks to be like regular paint, which is fine. It's a very unique black on silver hilt. I've never seen anything quite like it. As you can see, the first thing you'll notice is that the switch box is very low. Typically, we're used to seeing switches up near the blade, at least past the middle section of the hilt. So this was the first hurdle that I needed to get over, is the fact that the switches were so low, right? So the other thing that you'll notice is that this bottom section is huge. This is like an MHS V1. It's actually bigger on the internal. Inside of this is it's like 31 or 32 millimeters on the inner part here, and then it steps down to an MHS V1 up on the upper part. So I needed to really figure out a solution to doing a removable chassis, but also having the fact that these switches are so low be utilized, right? So let's talk about the chassis really quick. So here is the chassis. I'm going to do a quick animation here in Fusion and show you what I'm talking about. So the chassis is its own section, and what I ended up doing, well, that doesn't help. So here is the chassis for this build. I wanted to do a removable first and foremost for this build, but again, like I had to figure out a solution to those lower switch placement, right? So I've been meaning to try out the Switch PCBs. Smugglers Outpost has them. They're Switch PCBs. I've seen some installers put them in like Electrum builds. They're good for when you've got a switch box that's just in a very awkward place and you need to get a chassis past it. So the only way I was able to do that in this build was to first create a sleeve on that bigger internal section of the hilt. That way I could wire up the switch box and have a place to mount the like female end of that switch PCB. So I have that switch PCB mounted on the inside of this sleeve, and then I have the other receiving end of it mounted on the chassis itself, right? So that's fine and good, but what you also have to make sure is that you're sliding the chassis in the right way so that it lines up with each PCB on the internal. So the way I got around doing that was, in creating that sleeve, I created a channel down the side of the chassis and put like a ridge on the inside of that sleeve. So you're always putting the chassis in the right way. The other reason I got away with doing that is because of that, the lower internal diameter is so big, I was able to create that sleeve. When we get up to the top of the hilt, it's that MHS V2, so it's skinny anyhow. It's like 25, 26 millimeters, right? So to do a little animation here, the chassis just slides in to that channel there, right? And then I did a speaker pod in this build as well. Like there's a speaker pod set up. So in order to wire up that lower section of the speaker pod, I did a cap and wired up the pogo pins and then glued it. And up top I also created, this is a holder for the blade side PCB. So because I only had 3 conductors coming up outside of this chassis, I just did like a regular blade side and hilt side 3 conductor PCB, and I just made a little holder for it, and that's what this is, right? So nice little easy animation. Like I said, the build is super unique, really unique. But like I said, I wanted to make sure, I wanted to get these usable without having to do a full, stationary chassis. I could have just done a stationary with a stationary battery and put like a USB-C charging and data port down here with like a kill switch maybe. I've done that in builds before, but I really wanted to try to get a removable in this, and I accomplished it, but it wasn't without, I went through a few prototype prints. I had to make sure I was getting that sleeve, the right diameter and all that stuff. So let's talk about how to use it, okay? So, pommel unscrews, okay? On the inside of this pommel, we've got our speaker pod, and that pops out. I've got a 28 millimeter Saber Merchant speaker inside of that speaker pod. And I don't know if you can see it, but here's that sleeve on the inside. So what you want to do is take your chassis. Okay, spring side is your negative, so take the flat part of the battery, face it towards the negative spring, put it in. So I already had it on. There's a kill switch up here. You hit your kill switch, you're going to see the CFX light up on the inside here. This is a CFX build. I've been doing so many Profi builds that I forget when I have a CFX build to even mention that it's a CFX. So this is a CFX build. So here's a CFX board, plenty of room to get at your SD card. If you need to get at the USB, the board does flip up a little bit to get like a 90-degree connector in there if you need to. I have set up the config with a bunch of animated blades and colors and all that good stuff, right? So you put your battery in, turn it on, take note of where that ridge is, or that channel in the chassis, and take a look down your hilt and find that other ridge, and you just kind of want to slide it in, okay, until it stops, all right? Take your pommel, screw your pommel in until you're tightened and you're ready to go, okay? So that way, when that chassis is hitting those switch PCBs on the inside of that sleeve, the switches work, right? So let's come back up here. So super unique, super unique. I'm actually really happy that came out. That's the first time I've used those switch PCB pins before, or PCBs. So getting everything to line up and making, really have to make sure that all your measurements are correct. That way, when everything is screwed in, everything is connecting. So you've got your blade side PCBs connecting perfectly, and you've got your switch PCBs connecting, and you've got to remember the speaker PC or pogos for the speaker are connected as well. So super unique. So let's put a blade in it. The client did request that I put some set screws, or a set screw for the blade. So keep in mind, there is a black set screw in the middle of this grenade grip. This is the set screw for the blade side PCB that comes from the chassis. There is another small set screw up here. This is for your emitter PCB. And this very top M4 screw is your blade retention screw. Okay, so that's the screw that you want to unscrew and put your blade in. So make sure that's loose. Put your blade up top. Make sure it's resting on those pins. And then you tighten your set screw. Of course, it would help if I had the right size Allen key for the purposes of this video. There we go. Make sure it's tight. You're good to go. It's, I am so used to having Profis. Just twist to activate. I'm just so used to doing that. I know that twist to activate and deactivate is on the newer code rev of CFX. However, this is not on that code rev yet. I leave it up to you, the client, to update it if you would like. But so let's go over how to use it. So this top button is your main. The lower one is your aux. Okay, so find another font, let's hold it down.
Bank selection.
The force is with you.
Seeing one of these takes me back.
General Sky Guy.
This is where the fun begins.
So I've got a bunch of different like stock animations from the Crystal Focus library. See, I didn't tighten that blade in enough. There we go. Bunch of stock animations.
Sound bank selection.
General Scout.
Lord Vader. Prepare a boarding party.
Man, that MHS V2 always feels good to me. It's just like a really perfect diameter for a grip. So your aux, all that good stuff's working. And that's it. Just a really quick rundown on this build. Super, super unique hilt. I don't think I've seen anything quite like it. I mean, we're used to seeing switch boxes low, like on Obi-Wan's lightsaber, like on Obi-Wan's hilt, the switch box is low. On this one, this is my personal, so I have the switches low like that. Not common, but I definitely wanted to get these to work with a removable, and I think we achieved it. So to the client, thank you very much for trusting me with your build. By the way, you did supply a blade plug when you sent me your hilt. It was too long because we needed to get the blade PCB and all that in there. So I did cut it to size. So when you have it in your hilt, now it sits flush. There, okay. Man, 28mm sounds really, really good in this. Nice resonance. So anyway, to the client, thank you very much for trusting me with your build. This was definitely quite a journey that we were on. There was a little while there where I really didn't think that we would be able to achieve a removable with that switch setup, but I'm happy that we were able to. It's a very unique build, and you now own a very unique hilt. And to the viewers, thank you very much for watching. If anyone has any questions about this build, which I'm sure people do, please don't be a stranger. Let me know. Reach out. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.